So here at 5 Minute Mondays, we have a new addition with us today that is joining 5 Minute Mondays podcast. Alyssa, it is so good that you are part of 5 Minute Mondays. I'm looking forward to working with you.
No, I'm excited to be here.
Great, great. Now, today's topic, Alyssa, we're going to talk about forklift safety. Now, forklifts are a very dangerous piece of equipment that's operated out there across the United States on a regular basis. We're going to talk about some statistics, and then we're going to send it out in the field to Joe, all right, that's going to talk a little bit more in detail about forklift safety. So let's first talk about statistics on how many forklift accidents actually happen out there. Now, the statistic shows that 1 in every 10 forklifts will have some type of accident this year alone.
Yeah, I mean, they're extremely dangerous. And out of those accidents, about 95 people per day are seriously injured. And then every 4 days, a person's even killed.
Wow. I mean, that is staggering, those type of statistics. It's really an eye-opener, should be for a lot of people out there, if they are an operator, on how dangerous operating those forklifts really are. Now, Let's compare them to automobiles, okay? So obviously there's millions and millions of automobiles out there. I don't know how many millions are out there, but obviously, 100 million maybe, or?
I believe it's 234 million.
Wow, see, I knew there's a reason why we brought you here to the podcast. Great, so over 200 million, right? So about 1 in 48 or 1 in 50, let's say roughly, vehicles will be involved in a car accident every year, right? 1 in 50, I think that statistic is. And then we just said 1 in every 10 forklifts will be involved in some type of accident. So if you are a forklift operator, I mean, that tells us that that you have a better chance of being involved in a forklift accident than you do a car accident.
Absolutely.
That's another eye-opener out there.
Right, yeah, and since we're talking statistics, over the lifespan of a forklift, the likelihood of being in an accident is 90%.
Yeah, and you talk about the lifespan of a forklift. It's important to note that a lifespan of forklift is on average 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, and if you look at the daily driver over an 18-year span, only 77% are likely to be in an accident.
Wow. Again, more likelihood of being involved in an accident if you're a forklift operator versus operating a motor vehicle out there on the road. Now, we got Joe out there in the field. Okay, so he's left the studio. He's our field guy now. And so he's out there in the field. He's going to talk a little bit more in detail about forklift safety. So, Joe, we're going to send it out to you.
Okay, so I'm on site, obviously, but y'all just covered a lot of great statistics as far as, injuries and accidents related to forklifts. So, we got a forklift getting ready to get set up for the day, but just like any piece of equipment that y'all have, before you go out and start operating it, make sure that you do that pre-inspection each day on that forklift before you take it out, all right? So some of the common things you're gonna wanna check for is just under the lift itself, all right? Check underneath and make sure that there's no, any type of fluid leaks, any type of hydraulic leaks that need to get addressed immediately. Also, when you walk around, go ahead and take a look at all the tires. Go ahead and put your hands on them. If you see any signs of excessive damage or excessive wear on those tires, make sure that you let your supervisor know so that it can get addressed immediately. Also, check the condition of the forks. So if you see any signs of major damage on the forks themselves, or if you see anything caught in between the mast or the chains, that's something you obviously want to get addressed before you take that lift out into the yard. Also, very important, make sure that your horn works every day before you go out on that shift. That way, if you need to alert somebody or you're coming across a busy intersection, you're going to be able to alert those people and let them know that you're coming through. Also, make sure that that seatbelt is present and functioning. So these are just some of the basics that you want to check for each day before going out on that lift. So we talked about doing the inspection and how important that is each day, but something you also want to make sure you do when you do that inspection is make sure you have a record of it in some form or fashion, okay? So that might be, a hard copy paper that you do each day. It might be a dry erase board, where you record that inspection was done each day. It might even be a digital means that you do on a tablet or a phone, but you want to have some record of this inspection process being done each day. So now let's get over getting on and off that lift, okay? So just like, when you work from a ladder, you want to use 3 points of contact. You want to do the same thing for getting on and off that lift. So get in with 3 points of contact. When you get out, you're going to do the same thing. 3 points of contact getting out. Something that we see a lot is people just, they get off their lift and they try to just scoot out or jump off, that's going to leave you more prone to having an accident. So do make sure you're doing that 3 points of contact. So we talked about obviously checking that seatbelt each day before your shift. And one of the reasons that's so important is if you're ever involved in a situation where that lift is tilting or that lift is starting to tip over, you want to make sure that that seatbelt is engaged, okay? And in that situation, you want to basically just hold on to that steering wheel, have that seatbelt engaged, and lean in the opposite direction that that tip over is occurring, okay? Do not ever try to take off your seatbelt and jump out of the way of that lift tipping over, because you're not going to make it. That lift, the cage is going to come back on top of you. You're going to get crushed. So you're going to have to fight that instinct. Just keep that seatbelt on, hold on to that wheel, and lean into that opposite direction of the tip and ride it out.
Yeah, Joe, you're out in the field at a manufacturer under the general industry, but doesn't that apply to construction as well?
You brought up a good question. These things that we're talking about with the forklifts today, obviously we're in a general industry warehouse type environment. So how does that apply to the construction environment as well? Well, it's actually everything that we talked about today is going to be the same, okay? So you do want to do that inspection on the lift. You do want to document that inspection. You do want to practice the 3 points of contact, getting on and off. And also you want to make sure that anybody who's operating this lift, whether it's that construction environment, whether it's general industry, you want to make sure that they are certified and trained and authorized to use that lift prior to operation. Yeah, so we talked a lot about some of the common things that cause these injuries and these statistics each year with forklifts. The inspection process is very important to catch problems before you're out on the yard operating the lift. Also, you want to think about your environment and the pedestrians and the people working around you, okay? Another common thing for serious injuries and fatalities every year is people getting backed into or people getting crushed between fixed objects in this lift. So it's going to be very important for you as the operator, when you're going about your activities day in and day out, don't get complacent in your environment. Make sure that you've got a high level of awareness for the other people working around you. Don't just assume that they see you and they're aware of your presence. You've got to make sure that you're looking out for them, okay? So hopefully, over the things we covered today, you'll learn some new information, and we're going to go back to the studio with Josh and Alyssa.
Joe, that's some great information and takeaways. There's obviously a lot more that goes into the training, and that's important.
Joe did cover some good stuff out there today, but there's certifications involved in the process in order to operate a forklift safely. So obviously there's a lot more in-depth training to be had. Now, what causes a lot of these accidents is the lack of training the operator is actually receiving. OSHA said that these accidents can be reduced by 70% if there was more stringent and more detailed training given to the operator before they turn over those keys.